I'm sitting here with Frank Kavelin, new president of Lute Records. First of all, I want to say thank you for giving me the time. I know we've worked together.
Yes.
And this is one of those hidden talents that we have. Me, running the production company, and you running a record label.
Yes.
But Lute Records was started by your dad.
It was. It was started back in 1960. My father was a well-known band leader in the 30s and 40s, then a music publisher in the 50s, and so by the 60s he was ready to have his own record label. And so he started Lute Records in the den of our duplex, which is at 8601 West Olympic in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And one of the first records that he made and released was Alley-Oop by the Hollywood Argyles. And that was a huge record. It was #1 on both Billboard and Cashbox during the summer of 1960. Probably the biggest hit that Lute Records had, and it enabled him to record a lot of other artists and really expand the label. Alley-Oop was a novelty record, which novelty records in the 60s were pretty popular. But then he was also expanded to doo-wop and soul, and was able to nurture a lot of really good local talent in the Los Angeles area. Right. And so these tracks have, many of them have kind of had a life of their own. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm relaunching the old label. The tracks that we've recorded have been marketed and packaged and repackaged by other labels that we've licensed to. But I thought it would be a good idea to have everything in one place, right, where the consumer who knows about Lute Records can go and just get whatever they want. And so, I wasn't sure I was going to go forward with this. I'd thought about doing it and people would encourage me to do it. But it wasn't until just recently we have a mutual friend, Amber Hines. And, timing is everything. And definitely, she made the suggestion and it just hit me right. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do this. Nice. So I have digitally remastered all of the original masters that I've had and some that I have not had that I just had in various other forms like vinyl and so forth. And I'm going to be releasing a Volume 1 and a Volume 2 of the Lute masters.
Right. Yeah. Now, I looked up some of those songs.
Right.
The one you're talking about in particular. It's still getting a lot of hits.
It is, absolutely.
I hadn't heard of the song.
Yeah.
But when I looked it up, I was
You're
like,
too
wow.
young.
Right, but I know Otis Written. And
well, yeah.
I know, your dad produced a few of his songs as well.
Actually, the first things that Otis ever recorded were produced and released by my father on Lute Records.
And that's actually interesting because I put it on Facebook, like, who's heard of Otis Written? And gosh, who hasn't?
Of course,
I had a number of people just say, I do.
Yeah, sure.
I grew up listening to him.
Of course.
But even when I was listening to him, it was already considered an oldie kind of thing.
That's right.
So, what are your challenges now versus the challenges your dad had when he started the label?
It's interesting because I really see it as him having far greater challenges then than I have now. And it's all because of the way the whole the music industry has been turned on its head with the digital revolution. He had to physically set up distribution in many cities throughout the United States, promotion as a separate thing that he had to have promotion men in various places. He had to deal with them. He had to deal with collecting payment from all the different distributors. He had to actually physically manufacture product and arrange for the shipping and the logistics of all of that. Everything that I'm going to be releasing on the relaunch of Lute Records is going to be digital downloads, so there's none of that. Right. I'm using what's called an aggregator to place our downloads in all of the outlets like iTunes and Amazon and Spotify, because you can stream this stuff as well as download it permanently for your own collection. And so everything I can do on my laptop, basically.
Right.
So it's a whole different world, and it is challenging, especially in the area of promotion. how to let people know that this is available and out there and the background of it and so forth. But I find that exciting to develop various avenues of promotion so that people know about this. And I thank you very much for taking the time with me, because
Right.
I think this is yet another avenue of doing that. So that's the big difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, with Lute Records, do you intend to just work on those songs that you already have, remaster them, or are you opening the doors as well to new talent?
I am opening the doors to new talent, definitely. I already have someone who is very, very gifted from Detroit. Her name is Shirla, and that's how she will be known and marketed and so forth. She's a great singer, songwriter, instrumentalist, plays amazing guitar and bass, and her songs are great. And so we've developed a working relationship. I'll probably have an EP out on Shirla in about 6 months' time, and within a year, an album. And she'll be doing some showcases around the LA area, at least initially, and so that people can get to know her. And she also has a fan base as well, so that will all help. I'm going to do an album, actually. I've worked for quite a few years as an arranger and a producer and a composer, and I play tenor saxophone. I'm not great, but I'm adequate. And I'm making an album which showcases not only my playing, but more especially my writing. And that'll be coming out probably in about 6 months. It's going to be called Pure Imagination. And so that'll be fun to, see what kind of reaction I'll get from that. And then, in addition to that, as I said, our doors are always open to people who would be interested in at least start giving it a listen and seeing if we can take it to the next level.
Right. Now, just like I told you earlier, I was at the Art LeBeau concert.
Yes.
He's kind of helped keep some of that old music
Yes,
alive.
he has.
Some of that Motown, some of that R&B.
Yes.
Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson.
Sure.
All those. Do you think doo-wop has a place for music now?
I do, and I'll tell you why. I had to get my watch repaired in Century City, and there's a little shop there where I go, and there was this kid behind the counter, real hipster kind of guy, and we got talking, and I don't know how we got on the subject of music, but we did, and he brings up the fact he's really into doo-wop. And I said, well, I tried to get a sense, is this unique to this kid or, what, And he said, no, all my friends are really into this thing. And he indicated that there are bloggers and people who are, keeping this kind of thing alive, which, I've since investigated. And in fact, there are. So there is a great interest, and not just among people who, experienced this music for the first time, back in the day, but for people who are discovering it now, who are millennials and that generation, and so I think there is a significant market for doo-wop today.
I look forward to it. I want to see that, because I actually I'll listen to it, but I'll listen to Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson before doo-wop, but there is some doo-wop out there that
Yeah. Well, we have one side that we recorded with a group called the Uptones.
Right.
And it's rumored that was Elvis Presley's favorite doo-wop record. I don't know the truth of that, but I'll spread the rumor.
Right.
But as I recall, it was somebody that was quite credible that made that statement to us, and he had no reason to tell us that, other than the fact that we were the people that made that record, and he wanted us to know.
Nice. Being that I'm Latino and large portion of my audience is Latino,
yes.
English-speaking Latino or bilingual. Lute Records, did it have any connection back in the days with the Latino community in LA?
It did. Lute Records' door was always open, and a lot of artists knocked from various backgrounds and places. And one of the people that knocked on our door was a young man at the time, Pat Vegas. And Pat Vegas, along with his brother Lolly, if you are old enough to remember this, put on some amazing shows at Gazzari's on the Sunset Strip. And then Pat and Lolly started a group called Redbone, and they made the hit record Come Get Your Love. And he got his start with Lute Records, not only as a songwriter and performer, but he kind of honed his producer chops there, and he's been producing records ever since, and very talented and gifted member of the Latino community in LA, and quite well known. And we take a certain amount of pride that we identified his talent early on, and we're able to record a couple of sides, and actually we'll be releasing them probably on volume 2 of Lute Records, the things that he did back in the day in the 60s with us. Yeah.
Okay, so the doors are open for Latino talent.
Oh, absolutely.
You mentioned something about the digital era, with
yeah.
internet and all that.
Yeah.
Is it easier, not so much for producers, but for the artists to kind of want to be independent and do their own thing without really relying either on a manager or a label per se?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they can, just as I am doing, they can set up their own promotion in whatever avenue they can think of, or anything that presents itself to them. Anyone can basically do this, and that's why the big labels have had to rethink their whole approach to the business that they're in, right. And so I think that, of course, this remains to be seen, but it would appear that the big labels can continue to exist and thrive, but there's just more opportunity for the independent artist to get his stuff out there, to get recognition, to build a fan base, and all of these things that you used to have to go to a record label to achieve.
A lot of artists wanted to go independent, and
yeah.
Twitter and Facebook and iTunes and all that. Why did you decide to relaunch Lute Records?
Well, one reason, and this is a very personal reason, I wanted to do it as a tribute to my father. I wanted younger generations to appreciate what he had done, because it's not just a matter of making a hit record, but what's interesting about Lute is that he was able to tap into the talent pool in the 1960s that existed in Los Angeles, and it was a very exciting time in the history of popular music. He had certain sensibilities that he'd honed over the years, and a sense of taste about popular music that enabled him to put together some great records using great musicians and great talent. Not only were the artists talented, but the studio musicians he hired. He always hired members of the Wrecking Crew, who were famous studio musicians in LA. There was a contingency of the Wrecking Crew that came from Louisiana that were especially great for the type of thing that we did. Guys like Plaz Johnson on tenor sax, and Earl Palmer on drums, Renee Hall on guitar, Ernie Freeman on keyboards, and these were just wonderful players, and brought their talent to the tracks that my father captured and released. And what's interesting is so much of the success of a record can be chance. I mean, you put all the money in the promotion, all of that behind it, but there is always an element of chance as to whether something is going to click or not. We have experienced a favorable chance with regard to Alley-Oop, and its success. Not so favorable chance with regard to other tracks that weren't as successful, and so forth.
So when do you anticipate releasing the...
I'm working on that very diligently at the present, and so I'm thinking that we'll probably have some product released in mid-October, early November of 2014.
Okay. So everything's going to be centralized through, a Facebook account or Twitter, or...
We're going to have a Facebook page where people can write their comments and bloggers can contribute, and I've got several bloggers already set up from various parts of the world, actually, that are fans of Lute Records, and they're going to contribute some things. And that will serve as a gateway to the website where you can actually purchase the product. Will be available on iTunes and Amazon, Spotify, etc., like I mentioned before.
And what's the website?
The website will be luterecords.com.
Okay. You obviously saw your dad, invest time in
yes.
a different way.
And money.
And money.
Yes, a lot of his own.
In a different way that we would do things now.
Yes, very definitely.
Seeing what your dad did then and knowing what you can do now, what advice can you give someone, whether they want to be a producer? Because not just, someone that wants to sing, wants to be a performer, but someone that's, even a composer or a producer or a songwriter. What advice can you give them?
I can tell them to, as far as the production of their product, not to settle for anything less than what they perceive to be perfection in their product. Put in your 10,000 hours and whatever it is you're doing. Put in the time. Make sure you really love it, because if you really love it, then you will put in the time. And go with your heart, and your gut. Just do the best that you can possibly do, and quite possibly somebody will appreciate your efforts and will reward you for it. But if you skimp on any of that, your chances for success are correspondingly minimized.
Once again, why don't you tell everyone the website? And
it is Lute Records, one word, .com.
There you go.